Hey everybody, welcome to Drawing for Comics. My name is George Amaru. I am a comic book artist and general illustrator, and this series is for those of you who are just beginning out a career in comic book art or maybe just wondering how this all works. So I'm going to come over here to my color palette, and I'm going to select something that's a little closer to what the kind of gray you get from a pencil to get started with this. Now I am working in Adobe Illustrator, but everything I'm going to do applies just as much to traditional media, pencil and paper, as it does anything else. So let's get started. Today we're going to be drawing the eye. So I'm going to start by just creating the upper eyelid here in a general oval shape for the entire eye. You see me drawing in the lower eyelid here, and just a general kind of almond oval kind of shape. We're going to come down and kind of rough in our iris and then the pupil. You'll notice I went a little bit outside of the eye, and that's okay because we're really just roughing this out. So don't worry really too much about getting this perfect. This is just to kind of place all of our elements here. So I'm going to come down and draw a little line here to kind of show the upper eyelid, kind of those little folds you sometimes have between the eye and the bridge of the nose, and a little bit under the eye here as well. I'm going to rough in the eyebrow, just a basic arc for the moment. And then what we're going to do is we're going to decide really how we want to tighten all this up. So what I'm going to do is go down to my layers palette and create a new layer. I'm going to lock out the old one. And now I'm going to come up here and set my color back to a solid black. This would be kind of like inking over your final drawing, or if you are working with pencil, just kind of going in with a darker color pencil or just darkening up your lines. So I'm going to retrace my upper eyelid here. You'll notice I started a little bit off from where I put the pencil mark, and that is to help indicate where the tear duct is going to be. So I'm going to do the same thing down below. And you'll notice here I'm not going to draw the whole bottom of the eyelid. And the reason for that is when you outline things with a thick line all the way around, you end up making it look more cartoony. And we're going for a slightly more realistic look, even though this is going to be comic book art. So I just put in the tear duct there, and a little fold where the tear duct on the outside, where that kind of fold would be. And we're going to tighten up the iris, and I'm not going to follow my pencil lines exactly. I'm going to kind of double check my shape here, make sure I like it by turning off that layer. And yeah, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the pupil. And as I was saying, I'm not going to follow necessarily all of my pencil lines exactly as they were, because part of what we're doing now is tightening the design up and making sure it's really the way we want it to look in the final piece. So I'm going to reevaluate all of these lines, adjust them slightly. Maybe I didn't put it quite where I wanted it, or maybe the thickness wasn't quite right, that kind of thing. So now I'm going to go in and kind of work on tightening up the eyebrow here, but I'm going to change the shape just a little bit because all I really put in was a single arced line. So I really want to get into it now exactly how I want my eyebrow to look. And that's going to depend a lot about the mood of the character, kind of the emotion I want to get across, this kind of thing. So now I'm going to go in here and just thicken this up a bit, really get the shape. Think about how thick I want it, where do I want the curve to come in, where and how I want it to taper, these kinds of things. So I'm just going to go in here and do some work, kind of shaping this up and moving, filling things in, deciding what taper looks like. Let's get this filled in black here, and then I'm probably going to go back and look at kind of the edges and whatnot and really kind of clean those up, because I'm not really that happy with how they look right now. So you see I'm thickening up here, but now it's a little too thick on the back side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my color to white. If you're using a pencil, you can just use your eraser, of course. And I'm just going to kind of sculpt these a little bit and really get the taper where I want it to be. Make sure it flows through from the arc of the eyebrow. And really anything goes, unless you're working from a specific reference or trying to capture a specific look. You can really do this however you want. As long as it looks convincing as an eyebrow, really anything goes, and it really depends on your own personal tastes and what you're trying to accomplish. And now I'm going to put in a little bit of a shadow here, just to kind of indicate where the nose is going to be, and I'm going to actually change this up a little bit. I don't really like the way that looks. And this is just kind of the shadow line between the eye and the nose, where you have that little bit of depression if you wear glasses, where the little feet on your glasses kind of rest. And that just helps kind of place the eye, and even though we're not drawing the whole face, it gives us kind of an anchor point. So let's fill in the pupil here. And what I'm going to do also, just to give it a little bit more realism, is I'm going to add this shadow line in here. And that's just the shadow that results from the eyelid and the brow, kind of keeping the light from going directly onto the eye. And just adds a little bit of dimension, a little bit of a softer feel, a little bit more realistic, that kind of thing. And then take some white here, and again, you can use your eraser for this, and just make the reflection on the bottom part of the eye here, kind of showing the reflected light hitting the eye. And again, it just makes it a little bit more real, gives it more of that kind of polished appearance that eyes tend to have. Not quite glassy, but very reflective. So let's move in here, and let's do the same thing. Let's draw a female eye. So we're locking out our layer, switching back to that lower layer, dropping the color back down to that medium gray, and we're going to get started on the female eye. Now, as I'm drawing in the upper part of the eye, what I tend to do is I tend to draw the actual eyelash on a female eye rather than the whole upper eyelid as we did before. So you see that kind of swooping motion to it here. And then the corner of the bottom, and then the rest of that lower eyelash eyelid. And again, I've already skipped outlining the whole eye. That's just personal preference. Of course, you can do what you feel you need to. Let's put in the iris here, and then we'll go on to the pupil. Now, you notice how the iris is kind of cut off, and that is because with the female figure, what we do is we put in the eyelid here, is I like to, depending on the emotion you want to convey, I like to let the upper eyelid kind of hang down a little bit and do like a semi-open eye, and that gives a very sultry look, which is what we're going to go for here. So we're going to, and again, don't worry about exactly how these lines are laid out. We'll fix it in a minute. And here, put in a little indication of where kind of the nose comes in and the upper brow area. And then we'll put in the eyebrow. We'll just kind of taper one in right here. Now notice I already have the taper on the arc. And female eyebrows tend to be thinner than their male counterparts. And they tend to be thicker near the nose and taper out. So that's kind of what I did here. So let's get the black. Let's thicken up this upper eyelash and really get the shape that we're looking for. Again, we don't have to follow our pencil mark completely, and let's kind of let's redo that. You don't do this, again, exactly the way you did it in pencil. This is where you really refine it, find the shape you want, and thicken it up and really get the shape and thickness that you really want to the eyelashes. And again, we'll go through and fix kind of little corners and things as we go. And we'll fill in kind of the black here and whatnot, and really shape this and get what we like. Right in here, make it thicker, something like that. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to come in and work on the rest of the eyelashes and thicken up the bottom and really get my overall eyelash shape, because you can see the eye almost has a weird kind of shape to it right now with the way we drew in the eyelashes, so we'll fix that here in a minute. As soon as I get the lower eyelash kind of in the way I want it, and now we'll kind of make the eye a little bit more round and look a little bit more normal, more natural. And I don't love that bottom, but we'll fix that here in a minute. Put in the bottom over by the tear duct, little tear duct line, and now I'm going to rethink these lines and really make sure I have just what I need to accentuate that upper eyelid, but not overwork those lines. So very, very subtle. Let's turn off the bottom layer, see what we look. Yeah, that's not too bad. Again, I don't really love that lower eyelash, so we'll have to do something about that later. But so far so good in terms of overall shape, so let's keep going. Put in the iris here, get that in place, and probably put in the pupil here. Now, again, well, let's go over here and let's darken in the eye nose area, the little connection there, that little dip. And let's go in and now let's see what we can do here with this eyebrow, excuse me. And again, I'm going to taper it off back toward the eye and kind of see what that shape looks like. Don't really love it. Let's go try that again. I want a little bit of a smoother arc to it, so let's just go back over and taper it off. That looks pretty good. So let's thicken it up again. As I said, by the nose, the eyebrow tends to be thicker. And we kind of polish that, or excuse me, fill that in. Really get that looking the way we'd like it to look. And I'm going to change this upper eyelid. I don't really like the way that looked. That's a little bit better. Let's fill in the pupil. And again, we're going to do some shading and some reflection, but we're going to do things a little bit differently with this one. I'm going to come in and put in that shadow line again, but I don't want the shadow to blend right into her eyelash. So once I get the reflective line in there, I'm going to actually leave that white space so that it doesn't blend in with the eyelash. Put in the reflection on the pupil. And then I'm going to use this white again. You would use this with your eraser if you're doing traditional work, but just kind of reshape this bottom eyelash again and add a little more detail to it here, and kind of really, I'm going to drop the size for this. Again, with pencil, you can just sharpen your pencil or go in with a lighter line, whatever works for you. Or if you're doing inks on a brush, get a smaller brush out and kind of reshape it. So this one looks pretty good. You see here the differences between our male eye and our female eye, and really see how we use stylistic differences to denote the two. So let me move this up here so we can kind of see them side by side and kind of make room for more drawings here. But you can just see the differences in the eyebrows and in the eyelashes, the way the eyes curve, how we show a little bit more of the upper eyelid for the woman, etc. So let's come down and let's work on some different eyes. Let's work on showing someone who's a bit older. So we'll put in this upper eyelid here and get into the lower eyelid, and you'll notice the extra I left here, the extra skin. Creates an extra fold. We'll put in a couple wrinkles here, and we're really going to show the fold of the upper eyelid as it goes back into the brow area. And again, really accentuate the under eye area. We're going to put in the iris and the pupil, and again, we'll rough in a quick shadow as well, just to kind of, we're not going to spend quite as much time on these, but we will kind of put in all the basic pieces so we can see how they all fit. And already you can see this is I have an older person, a few more wrinkles. Let's do that. And put that in like that, that's a little bit better. And already we get the sense that this is probably an older person. A male character, because of the way we did the eyelashes and things, of course. So let's put in the eyebrow. Just kind of rough one in there. And there we go. Okay, let's move on to another eye now. So let's put in something a little bit more of a shocked expression. So really exaggerate this upper eyelid. I really want to open the eye up. So really open up the bottom eyelid, really curve it. Have the iris so that it doesn't touch either eyelid. Really put it in the center and then draw on the pupil. And you really already kind of see the shocked expression on this person's face. Their eyes are just open quite wide. They really can't believe what it is they're seeing. So I can fill this in here. Let's put in our highlight. And I'm going to fix this pupil up here too a little bit. Here. We're not going to really put in much of a shadow because the eye is open so wide. We're not getting that drop shadow like we normally would. Really make sure we accentuate the eyelids here, and then really exaggerate the arc of the eyebrow, which I don't really like. Let's fix it a little bit. And it's up higher from the nose and down closer to the eye. Really, again, that expression we've all seen, where the eyes are really open wide and the eyebrows are raised, and it's just an extreme expression of fear or panic or disbelief, what have you. Okay, so we have 4 different eyes now. We've seen a generic male, generic female, and a couple of different expressions. And it's really in the details where you can really drive home the various emotions you want to bring across. So let's get some red on our brush here. And again, you can use a red pencil or a marker. And let's go in here and put some veins in here. Let's make some bloodshot eyes. Maybe it's so frightening, or this person's under so much stress, or we really want to just make a creepy picture, whatever it is. And you can go in here, we can put the red veins in here and making it all bloodshot and things like that. So there's a whole bunch of things you can do to really drive your point home with what you're trying to do emotion-wise. But let's focus on just using the eye itself and the details of the eye to get across our expression. So let's come over where we have some space. Let's get some black back on the brush here. Go back to grayscale. There we go. Okay, so let's come in here and let's start on another eye. I'm going to start with a squinty kind of eye. It's not going to be open very big. And we're going to do a couple eyes with this just to kind of see the different emotions you can get. Now, I'm going to really arc the eyebrow down and accentuate the upper eyelid. And I'm going to have them looking up a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. It's just to get the eye in here. And already you can see this is an angry person. Something has not gone right, they're not happy, and we're really going to bring it out in our art. So let's fill in the eyebrow here, just kind of rough it in. Now, it doesn't matter too much what it looks like. We don't need to go for something perfect. We're just sketching out some ideas. Let's really accentuate the fold between the eyebrow and the nose, really getting that scowling look. Put in a little dent where the nose is. Fill in the pupil, just like that. And we have our angry eye, someone who's very, very upset. So let's go over here. Let's start on another one. Let's do another kind of squinty eye. So we're going to put in the upper eyelid again and put the detail on the bottom. Again, not drawing the whole thing. And we'll keep the eye kind of looking up just to stay with what we've already done here. So let's go for something maybe a little bit more of a worried expression. So we're going to change the arc of the eyebrow. And it's really all in the eyebrow. As we fill this in, you can see we're keeping the same basic eye, but just by changing the eyebrow, we've already changed the expression to something that's a little bit more worried, a little bit more pensive, perhaps, not as angry, perhaps watching something going on and just not feeling too great about it. And again, put in the details around the eye with the different folds to really help get the expression across. And you see with more of the lines, the more worried the person looks. Let's try one more, again with this squinty kind of eye. It's a little bit open than it was, but not the default we had before. And we're going to put in kind of a general eyebrow this time. Put in the irises here. And you can see by kind of making this a little off-kilter with this the iris here and putting the eyebrow, something's not quite right in this picture. They're a little bit worried, they're concerned, and it's really, we have a basic eye here, but just by altering the size of the pupil and the shape of the iris, we can kind of get across that something just is a little off in this picture. Something's not quite right here. So let's go in and just kind of fix this a little bit, redo what we've done, and put in a little bit more normal of an iris. Take a little time, make sure it's a little bit straighter, a little bit more round. Put in the dent by the nose here, and we'll go ahead and put in a few different kind of pupils here. So let's start with one where this person is looking up. And just a basic expression, everyday face, and then another one where they're looking down. And in a way, you almost get a different expression just by having them look down. There's a little bit more worry on the person's face. And we'll come in straight across, and just a plain old eye looking straight out at us. Put in the shading, and you see there's not a whole lot of expression going on here. It's just kind of your average default face, just by, again, changing the iris and the pupil. From what we had on the other two examples with the same eyebrow, same depression by the nose, everything else. So again, we have a few different examples here, way to do eyes. Let's come in and do one more with a female eye, actually. So let's come back in here, and we'll get started by coming in and thickening up this upper eyelash the way we had it before on the previous female eye. And add a little swoop to the end here for the end of the eyelashes. Just kind of thicken it out and get that shape that we really want on it. And the same thing here for the bottom, and connect the two in and make that one nice shape as they come together. So, and then I'm going to add it back the upper eyelid again, and that one's not quite the way we want it, so let's fix that. And you see this one isn't quite as sultry as before. This is a much more standard, everyday kind of view. The eyelid isn't quite as low. Come in here, add the thickness to the eyebrow, and that is pretty much it. We have our female eye just by changing those few details. So that's it for this one. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If there's anything else you'd like to see, let me know. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll be back with another video very soon.